You walk into a store telling yourself you're just looking. Your current phone still works. The screen is chipped, sure. The battery dies a little faster than it used to. But nothing urgent. Nothing broken enough to justify panic. Then you see it. The new one. Perfect edges. Cold metal. A screen so clean it feels like the future. And suddenly, your old phone doesn't feel fine anymore. It feels embarrassing. Outdated. Like it's been holding you back. You tell yourself a story. This is for work. I need better performance. It's an investment. So you buy it. You swipe the card. You walk out feeling accomplished. Like someone who has their life together. For a moment, you feel upgraded. Then you get in your car. You pull the phone out of the box and admire it. And right there, in your center console, is your old charging cable. Frayed. Yellowed. Bent at the ends. It suddenly looks disgusting. It feels wrong to connect this beautiful piece of engineering to something that looks like it came from a gas station bargain bin. So you don't. You order the official. Charger. Wireless. Clean. Minimal. $40. No big deal. Later that night, you place the phone on your nightstand. And now your phone case looks cheap. Plastic. Scratched. It ruins the whole aesthetic. So you replace it. Leather. Premium. $60. The next morning, you realize your old wired headphones don't even fit anymore. And honestly, would you even want them to? Not with a phone like this. You get the AirPods. $250. Within 2 days. A $1,200 purchase quietly becomes $1,600. And you didn't feel reckless once. This isn't because you're bad with money. This isn't because you lack discipline. This is something else. This is a psychological chain reaction that has destroyed more wealth than bad investments ever have. It explains why people who win the lottery often end up broke. Why dream homes become financial traps. Why upgrades never seem to stop. Most people believe they buy things because they need them. That's not true. You buy things because your other things start making demands. Because once one object in your life levels up, everything else around it starts to feel like it doesn't belong. And that discomfort is expensive. Today, we are going to talk about the invisible force behind that discomfort. The mechanism that turns one harmless purchase into a financial spiral. And if you understand it, you'll never look at buying the same way again, because this effect doesn't start with greed. It starts with identity. Before we go any further, think about the last nice thing you bought. Something above your usual standard. A phone. A car. Clothes. Furniture. Be honest with yourself. Did it stop at just that one item? Or did it quietly pull other purchases along with it? New shoes to match. A better bag. A different lifestyle to justify it. This is the part nobody warns you about. That we think ownership gives us control. But more often, ownership rewrites the rules of our life. One upgraded object sets a new baseline. And everything below that baseline starts to feel wrong. You don't consciously decide to spend more. You just start correcting inconsistencies. Your environment no longer matches who you think you are now. And that gap between who you were and who you appear to be, money rushes in to fill it. What makes this especially dangerous today is that modern marketing is built to trigger this reaction with surgical precision. Products aren't sold as tools anymore. They're sold as identities. You're not buying a phone. You're buying the version of yourself who owns that phone. And once you step into that version, everything else has to catch up. This is why the purchase felt justified, rational, even responsible. And it's why the spending didn't feel like spending. It felt like alignment. But here's the uncomfortable truth. That feeling of alignment is temporary. Because once the environment catches up, the identity demands more. And the cycle repeats. This pattern has a name. And it was discovered long before smartphones, ads, or algorithms existed. It began with a man who thought he was simply rewarding himself. A man whose life unraveled because of one beautiful piece of clothing. And when you hear his story, you're going to realize something unsettling. You're not living in a modern version of this problem. You're living in an amplified one. Because the same psychological trap that existed centuries ago is now everywhere. And it's faster. louder, smarter. In the next part, we are going to travel back in time to meet the man who accidentally exposed this mechanism to the world. And by the end of his story, you'll understand why one upgrade is never just one upgrade.to. Understand why this pattern is so powerful. We have to leave the modern world for a moment. No smartphones, no ads, no influencers. We are going back to France in the year 1765. This is where we meet Denis Diderot. Diderot was not an average man. He was one of the most influential thinkers of his time, a philosopher, a writer, the co-founder of the Encyclopedia, one of the most ambitious intellectual projects in human history. His ideas shape how people thought about knowledge, reason, and society itself. And yet, despite his brilliance, Diderot was poor. Not temporarily poor. Not down on his luck poor. He lived a modest, almost fragile life. His clothes were old. His furniture was worn. His study was filled with mismatched objects collected over decades. A creaking wooden chair, a scratched desk, a faded rug, and none of it bothered him. He worked. He wrote. He thought. He was content. Then something unexpected happened. Catherine the Great, the Empress of Russia, heard about Diderot's financial struggles. She admired his work and decided to help him in a generous but clever way. She offered to buy his entire library for a large sum of money, roughly the equivalent of $50,000 today, while allowing him to keep and use the books for the rest of his life. Overnight, Diderot went from struggling intellectual to wealthy man. And like most of us would, he decided to celebrate. He didn't buy a house. He didn't throw parties. He bought something small, something personal, something symbolic, a scarlet dressing gown. It was expensive, luxurious, perfectly made, the kind of robe worn by people who saw themselves as refined, important, successful. When he put it on, he felt transformed, elevated. For the first time, he didn't feel like a man scraping by. He felt like the philosopher he believed himself to be. But that feeling didn't last. As he sat down to write, still wearing the robe, he noticed something that made him uncomfortable. His desk. The robe was elegant. The desk was not. The surface was scratched. The wood was warped. Ink stains marked years of use. Next to the robe, it looked pathetic, out of place, almost offensive. So Diderot replaced the desk. He bought a beautiful mahogany writing table. Solid, polished, worthy of the robe. For a moment, harmony was restored. Until he looked down. The rug beneath his feet was thin and threadbare. It suddenly looked like a rag. How could such a fine desk sit on something so cheap? It ruined the room. It ruined the feeling. So he replaced the rug. Then the new rug made the curtains look dull. So the curtains had to go. The curtains made the chair look like firewood. So he bought a leather armchair. The chair made the walls look empty. So he added art, paintings, sculptures, mirrors, one object at a time. His entire environment was pulled upward to match the standards set by that single robe. Weeks passed, then months. Diderot became obsessed with cohesion, with unity, with consistency. Everything had to belong together. Everything had to make sense. And by the time he was finished, something had quietly disappeared. His money. Diderot had upgraded his entire life to match one possession. And when the process was over, he found himself broke once again. Later, he wrote an essay reflecting on what had happened. He titled it "Regrets on Parting with My Old Dressing Gown." In it, he confessed something chilling. "I was the absolute master of my old dressing gown," he wrote, "but I have become a slave to my new one." That single sentence explains more about modern spending than any budgeting app ever will. Because Diderot didn't lose his money due to extravagance. He lost it because one object changed the rules of his world. The robe became the anchor. Everything else had to rise to meet it. This is what we now call the Diderot effect. The introduction of a new possession doesn't just add something to your life. It reshapes everything around it. It creates a new standard. And anything that doesn't meet that standard starts to feel wrong. We like to think we own our possessions. But the truth is, they often end up owning us. Now, you might be thinking this is just an old story. An 18th century problem. A philosopher with too much time and poor judgment. But here's the uncomfortable part. This effect didn't disappear with time. It evolved. And in the modern world, it's more dangerous than ever. If the Diderot effect was powerful in the 1700s, it's almost unstoppable today. Not because we are weaker, but because the system around us is smarter. Modern marketing doesn't just sell products. It sells identities. Fully formed, carefully packaged, ready to step into. Let me show you how this plays out in real life. Imagine you decide to get in shape. Not casually. Seriously. This is the year you change. So you buy the bike. The high-end one. The one with instructors on a screen telling you who you could become if you just commit. You tell yourself it's an investment in your health. And maybe it is. But when the bike arrives, something feels off. You're standing there in an old cotton t-shirt and gym shorts you've owned since high school. You don't look like the people on the screen. You don't feel like a cyclist. The bike is elite. You are not. That tension needs to be resolved. So you buy the shoes. The real cycling shoes. Then the compression shorts. Then the moisture-wicking top. Then the branded accessories. Now you look the part. But the bike is sitting in a cluttered living room. Cables everywhere. Old furniture. Bad lighting. It doesn't feel like a performance space. It feels wrong. So you fix the environment. A yoga mat. Dumbbells. A cleaner layout. Maybe even a bigger TV to cast workouts properly. At some point, you realize what actually happened. You didn't buy a bike. You bought an identity. This is the core engine of the Diderot effect. Identity consistency. As humans, we crave coherence. We want our surroundings to agree with the story we tell ourselves about who we are. When one object upgrades that story, everything else has to follow, or it creates psychological friction. That friction feels like discomfort, and money becomes the tool to erase it. This is why high-status purchases are so dangerous. If you see yourself as a basic car person, a modest lifestyle feels natural. Jeans are fine. Cheap sunglasses are fine. Fast food doesn't conflict with who you think you are. But when you stretch to buy something like a luxury car, you don't just buy transportation. You redefine yourself. You become a luxury car person. And luxury car people don't wear scratched watches. They don't sit on cheap furniture. They don't eat off paper plates. The car becomes the anchor item. It sets a new baseline for your life. Everything below that baseline creates tension. So the upgrades begin. The car demands better clothes. The clothes demand better vacations. The vacations demand better luggage. The luggage demands better hotels. This isn't impulsive spending. It's narrative maintenance. You're not buying things because you want them. You're buying them because your life story has to make sense. This is why the advice "fake it till you make it" is financially toxic. If you fake success with a Rolex you can't afford, that watch doesn't sit quietly on your wrist. It demands a suit. It demands a car. It demands dinners that match its presence. And suddenly, you're not chasing success. You're feeding an image. The trap is subtle because every step feels reasonable on its own. No single purchase feels insane. The insanity only appears when you zoom out and see the chain. This is also why people feel broke even when they earn more. Their income rises, but their identity baseline rises faster. More money doesn't buy freedom if it upgrades the anchors of your life. It just upgrades the cage. And the most dangerous part? Once this process starts, it doesn't stop naturally. The system is designed to keep offering you the next matching item, the next logical step, the next upgrade that promises harmony. But harmony through consumption is an illusion, because every time you align your world to a new identity, you raise the cost of staying there. In the next part, we are going to expose the math behind this illusion, the hidden cost nobody calculates. And more importantly, we'll talk about how to break the cycle without giving up everything you enjoy. To break this cycle, you first have to see it clearly, because the most dangerous cost of the Diderot effect is the one nobody calculates. Most people look at a price tag and ask a simple question: can I afford this? That question is incomplete. The real question is, what will this purchase force me to buy next? This is what I call the chain reaction cost. Let's look at a familiar example. Home renovation. You decide to upgrade your kitchen. Nothing crazy. Just new cabinets. You budget $10,000. Reasonable. Responsible. The cabinets go in. Clean. Modern. White. And suddenly, your old refrigerator looks disgusting. It still works perfectly, but visually it clashes. It doesn't belong anymore. The inconsistency is unbearable. So you replace it. $2,000. Now the fridge and cabinets look great together. Until you notice the flaw. Cheap vinyl. Dated. It ruins the illusion. So you rip it out. Hardwood floors. $5,000. Now the kitchen looks like a magazine spread. But it's an open floor plan. When you look into the living room, everything there looks tired. The couch. The walls. The lighting. The kitchen upgrade leaks outward. You repaint the house. You buy a new sofa. The final cost isn't $10,000. It's $35,000. The cabinets were the scarlet robe. They set a new standard that everything else had to meet. If you had never upgraded the cabinets, you would never have hated the floor. You were fine with it before. The dissatisfaction was created by the upgrade itself. This leads to a disturbing realization. Upgrades are often downgrades in disguise. When Diderot wore his old robe, he used it freely. He wiped ink stains on it. He moved without fear. He was the master of it. When he wore the new robe, he became careful, stiff, protective. He lost freedom. The same thing happens today. Buy a brand new white couch, and suddenly your living room becomes a museum. No red wine. No dogs. No relaxed nights. You don't live in the room anymore. You manage it. The object doesn't serve you. You serve the object. So how do you stop this? You can't escape consumption entirely. That's unrealistic. But you can build defenses. Firewalls that stop one purchase from hijacking your life. Here are 3. First, predict the chain reaction. Before you buy any upgrade item, a car, a console, a suit, pause. Ask yourself what this item will demand from you. If you buy a new gaming console, will it demand a better TV? Extra controllers? Subscriptions? Accessories? Write down the full system cost, not the sticker price. If the console costs $500 but the system costs $1,500, the real question is whether you can afford $1,500. If you can't, don't buy the anchor item. You're inviting a vampire into your house. Second, the buy one give one rule. The Diderot effect thrives on accumulation. We add new things without removing old ones, and then we try to make everything match. Stop that. If you buy new shoes, an old pair must leave. If you buy a new appliance, the old one goes. Donate it. Sell it. Give it away. This rule forces you to stay a user, not a collector. It keeps your identity flexible instead of frozen around objects. Third, practice strategic downgrading. This is the most powerful move. Deliberately keep your visible status symbols modest. Drive a slightly older car than you can afford. Wear a simple watch. Choose function over flex. When your anchor items are humble, nothing else in your life is under pressure to perform. If you drive a beat-up truck, nobody expects luxury from you. You have freedom. You can wear jeans. You can eat messy food in the car. You can live. A low-maintenance identity is the most profitable asset you can own. It allows you to stack cash quietly while everyone else is busy curating their image. There's nothing wrong with nice things. I like nice things too. But you have to understand the game you're playing. Consumerism promises completion. But every purchase resets the board. Diderot figured this out 300 years ago. One upgrade doesn't finish the puzzle. It scrambles it. So don't be a slave to the robe. Be the master of your life. If this made you rethink a purchase you were about to make, take that as a win. And if you want to learn how to build real wealth without playing status games, you know where to go next. I'll see you in the next one.